Okay, we are looking at the 4-hour chart down here, and we can see that the price line that I drew in has been a decent support level through here, and it has held. And if we look up here, we can see yesterday's trading dropped down actually below that price line just a little bit and immediately recovered, and then went up, and then overnight it kind of peaked out, and then it started to drop again. So that's what we're seeing right now, is this drop. And I am suspecting that it may drop down to that purple line there. I have the pink price line that I drew in from yesterday still there. I think I'm going to make an adjustment to it later on. Okay, and went to the 15 and 30 minute charts here, and I can see that the blue line is acting as a support. So I raised up the pink line to that point right there, which is right at the bottom of that little bit right there, which is right there. And looks like I would like to do a long, but not right now. I want it to drop down to that point and then get into a long at that point. And one of the main reasons is because the MACDs on the 30 and 15 minute charts are kind of showing that. The MACD on the short term chart here is also very, very low, but it's kind of tipping down right now. So, okay, I waited for it to bounce a little bit here. I'm seeing a green candle, so I put in a long order and hoping that it will go up now. Started to drop, and it tested the pink line, so I put in a stop order to protect any losses, but this is a pretty big loss right here. And it actually dropped down below the pink line and then stopped me out. So my first trade was a $200 loss. And now I'm kind of rethinking through what's going on in the market, because now we've pretty decisively broken through that support right here and actually gone below the last trough right over here. So we are sitting on the 30-minute chart, we are sitting on the blue SMA. So there is still kind of a support right there that might still be in play. Okay, and it looks like it is acting as a support right through here. And now the MACD is starting to turn a little bit. So I decided at this point to do a long, and I figured that it was probably going to go up because that was my original thought, and I haven't really seen that it's changed yet. But then when it dropped big time through there, I decided I was incorrect about that, and it's probably going to drop down to that purple line after all. So I put in a reverse sort of order here, which is two, which gets me out of the first one and then into a short. And that would be at another $225 loss for the second trade, and then in a short. So now I'm in a short and have every reason to believe that it's going to drop down to here. The MACDs are now, going down. The RSI is super low on both of these charts, and it's the MACD and the RSI are super low on these charts as well. So there is that. But it looks like it's dropping, so that's good. And so it kind of hesitated right through there. And then it started to go up. So now I am in a loss position again. And this is not looking good. It didn't get down nearly as far as I thought it would. Oh, let me go back one bit here. I guess I don't have to go all the way back. But anyway, I drew in... let me go back one more time. So I drew in a yellow price line here at a place where I thought it might be a good support area. So it's like, okay, worst case scenario, I think it may drop down to that yellow line here. I also put in a pink price line where it is going to hit directly below on that purple angled price line that I drew. So that point right there kind of doesn't really have to do with the candles necessarily. It's just the point right here where I think it could possibly meet that purple line. So I wanted to be able to see that on the short-term chart. All right, so these are the 2 points where I think it might drop to. So now I'm in a short. and waiting for it to do its thing. In the meantime, I decided to draw a very, very short-term Fibonacci line. And I honestly was not looking at where it was meeting up with the candles until I placed the points. I started here, here, and here. Those are the 3 points that I did. And when I looked over here, it's like, oh my word, that's exactly where I drew my lines. The 100% line right there and right there. And it also, like this little cluster of candles right here, matches up with a 78.6% line. You can see it kind of interacting with that particular Fibonacci setup in a big way. So I thought that was really interesting. So it's even more reason to think that, yeah, it's probably going to drop down to this point. I mean, that's a huge drop for me. But anyway, so I put in an exit order there. I don't know if I'll keep it or not. I usually just kind of watch it, and then when it hesitates, I get out. But at any rate, it kept bouncing up and then dropping again. So we got a minute and a half left to the opening bell. So I was feeling a little stressed about what should I do at this point. Do you think it's going to drop down there? Is it going to bounce? What should I do at that point? Should I just go ahead and get out? I ended up holding on to it and waiting it out. And it did not go above this Fibonacci line there and price line that I had drawn in immediately. But it did keep coming up and testing it. So when it dropped down here, I was busy, I think, analyzing, and I did not get out. And so I made a mistake in doing that. I could have done better. But I missed out on that, I think, if I remember right. And then when it went back up to here, I got into another short. Looks like I placed a short order here. And then it went up a little bit further, and then it dropped. So then I ended my fourth trade here, and I'm sitting at a $212 loss. Even though that was a good trade, that's helping me to come out of the hole a little bit. I didn't wait for it to drop very far because I'm a little worried that I'm seeing a hook here, and this might actually be the floor, and then it's not going to drop down to that point. So that's what I'm worried about at this point. But then it dropped a little further and hit the floor a little bit lower down and kind of pushed that down that way. And I'm definitely seeing a downtrend. I'm still thinking that it's still possible that it dropped down to this point. And on the shorter term charts, we are not seeing any green candles at all. There's no hook on the MACD, but the RSIs are really, really low. So when it dropped even further, it's like, man, I really think it's going to get down to there, which would be a decent trade, even if I got in at this point. I feel like I'm chasing it a little bit here. This is a short, and I got in, and I wrote it down and put in my my exit order here and got filled. Let me go back and see what in the world happened there. Because I got out at that point, and it says I have 0 for the day, but then here it says I have a $300 loss. Oh, I think I missed a couple slides there. This is the end of my 5th trade, and here I've got a 6th trade, so I missed. Sorry about that. Okay, so I lost $300 then in doing this, and I am not in a position right at the moment. I must have just gotten out. All right, so when it bounced here, I got into a long at this point, and I'm riding it up, and I'm in a good position. All right, and I put in a stop order and got out, and I think I'm going to cancel that order there. Okay, and then I got into a short here at this point, and there is some reason to think that that may not be a good idea because we've recovered and it may be going back up again, because we did do almost exactly the same thing we did yesterday. It went down past the purple line and then immediately recovered. And we can see that after it made that recovery, it continued to go on up for the rest of the day and overnight for a little while. So it's possible that we are seeing the exact same scenario. And it went down to that yellow line, which I said was kind of the worst case scenario there for the day, for the morning. It did take that big drop. And so it's possible it may be going back up. But it does look like it's hooking over here. We're losing momentum on the MACD. So I did get into a short at this point. All right. And I'm thinking that it's looking pretty good. I put in an exit order here, kind of looking at that orange SMA, a couple ticks above that. But it kept going up and bringing that SMA with it, and it just didn't want to drop. And then I made a big mistake, and I didn't have a stop order in, and it shot up. And so now I finally got out at this point. I think I finally put in a stop order and got out of this position, but not until it lost 737, and I was very upset about that. Galadriel had actually stepped out to use the restroom and was not helping me. So I say that she is a big help in this situation. Another element of accountability. Somebody that's kind of making me question my decisions, and was not here to do that. So that's unfortunate. I'm disappointed in myself. All right. So then at this point, let's see, what am I going to do? I think I decided that it was going up because we had a huge recovery. We're sitting at a resistance level now. So getting into a long at this point, which is what I did, not necessarily the best idea. I mean, the MACDs on the 15 and 30 minute charts are looking pretty good. And I did, to my credit anyway, put in an exit order at a very small sort of place and switched it to a stop order kind of at the last minute so that I wouldn't limit my profit, but I would stop any, I would also keep any gains that I had made. And I think I got stopped out on that one. So I've whittled the losses down to 637 now, 9 trades. And Galadriel came back, and my helper came back, I should say, and we talked about it. And she said that if I made one more good trade, then she would think about a second one. I told her I really wanted to try to get myself out of the hole a little bit more. So I watched it, and I was trying to make predictions. If I'm remembering right, I said it was going to peter out and drop down to maybe like here, and then I wanted to get into a long and then ride it up because I thought it was going to go up a little bit further. So that's what I'm waiting for. And it did. It bounced off of that orange line, and she let me make another trade. So I put in a long order here at this point. The MACD looks high, but I think it's also possibly going to be turning and going up at this point. So I got filled. I'm in a long. It's looking good. And then I got out at this line right here, which I figured would probably be a hesitation point or possibly a bouncing point. So that was a good trade. That was $150. Got out there. And then it dropped down and all right, yeah, and then she said, okay, one more trade. That's all I can do. And so I waited for an opportunity. It bounced off of this point right here and started to show like it was going to go up. And I still think it's probably going to get up to the 0% line here. So I made a long. This would be my 11th trade. And I stretched this out a little bit, so it's going to look a little different. But basically it went up and then down, and then it hesitated a lot and kind of worried me. And it came back down to this point, and then it came up, and it's like it just didn't want to break above that line right there. And so I put in my exit order at one tick above where I got in, so I'm basically covering my commissions, but I'm not making anything on that trade, essentially. And then we decided that was it. She said I really shouldn't trade anymore. It was 10:40 at this point, and that's kind of past my point of trading, and I was not doing very well. What's really sad is at one point I had whittled my losses down to about $50 and I did not stop. So, because she was out of the room and not helping me to, I don't know, making me accountable there. So anyway, I ended up with my losses today at 542, which basically wipes out the last 2 days of profit that I made. I am still about $50 above the amount that I started at. So that is unfortunate. But lesson learned, I hope. So thanks for joining me.